Miz in the Miz Taraj. Heading out of town.
Come on. Hey, we're gonna shake this down, right? Sit down. Door. Thank you. Go. Run.
I'm good. You made it. Good. I told you there was nothing to worry about.
That wasn't worry. To the airport. Thank you.
Why are we
doing? Come on, let's go.
Hey,
what do you mean truck? Go around it. Tell them to move. Tell them you have WWE superstars in your limo. Get out of the car. Unlock the door. Let's lock the door. Open the door. It's your door. Try yours! Unlock the door! There's no door here! Open the... Strowman!
Attention. Do I have everybody's attention now?
Hey now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Podcast Express, man. We got a lot to talk about. It's been a good week of wrestling and MMA news and all kinds of stuff going down. How's it going, Joe?
Not too bad, Manny. It's a good week for fans, but not a good week for some wrestlers. Some disappointing news to talk about.
Yeah, man.
I guess a good week depending on who you're asking.
Right. Yeah, man. So let's go ahead and get it started with our top story is Braun Strowman. Man, what a return. Yeah, so at the top of the show, Joe, you haven't heard this yet. You'll hear it whenever we play it back. But last week, you made a little prediction at about 18 minutes and 50 seconds of last week's episode. And your prediction was, I think Braun Strowman's going to come back, but they're going to bring him back in a fucking garbage truck. And it's going to be stupid. Well, that's exactly what they did. And now what say you, Joe?
All right, I knew what they were going to do, but I never imagined it could be as god-awful glorious as it was. Not to steal from Bobby Roode, but holy shit, was it a shit show, and was it one of my favorite things I've seen from WWE maybe all year. Yeah,
it was amazing. I loved it, and I loved it so much. And Stranger Things 2 came out last week on Friday. And maybe Thursday anyway. I started watching it on Friday night of last week, and by Sunday I had finished all of season 2. And then Monday night that happens, and you send me the video, and you sent me a video, a shitty one that you did with your phone, right? Yeah. But then I guess somebody posted a video where they put the Terminator theme music behind it, and I thought that was cool. But man, I started thinking, I was just like, I think this would be really cool if somebody put the Stranger Things theme song behind it. Because since Stranger Things came out, the season 1 last year, that's been the ringtone on my phone. And I love that song. So I went ahead and I did that. I did that this morning before I went to work. I actually was just kind of playing around on it because I got to go and work late today. And I did that, and I posted the video, and people seemed to really like it. It turned out to be pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, no, man, I loved it. And honestly, that video you sent me was what got me to watch Stranger Things today. And, we'll get more into that later. But, man, the segment, one of my favorite, there was 2 things that I absolutely just loved about it. The way Miz, his facial expressions, just the way he sold being absolutely terrified. And part 2, the fact that when they're running away, there's stairs to the left of them. Braun Strowman could have ran around the car and ran up the stairs. But no, that's not the way Braun Strowman does things. He climbs up on top of the car and runs over it. And he kind of runs like Super Mario. He's so stiff in the upper body. I just loved absolutely everything about it. And when he's just ripping apart Axel in the ring, I hope it wasn't planned this way, but when the crowd started chanting one more time over and over again, and he just kept doing it, I really hope that was just him reacting to the crowd, and then they started chanting for a table, so he put him through a table. I hope that wasn't planned. I hope that was just Braun Strowman feeding into the crowd, because this guy, he could be the top babyface in all of the company the way he's going.
Yeah, you could say that Braun Strowman was just doing some Strowman things.
Some Strowman things.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So let's go ahead and run it down. So earlier in the show, The Miz was in, I guess, his own office, right? I can't remember, but he was in somebody's office, and then he looked at some trash, and then got freaked out thinking that Braun Strowman was in the trash, right? I was just like, what the hell's going on? And then, he has his argument with Angle, and then they're getting ready to leave, and they're in the back of the limo, and the limo stops, and there's a garbage truck. Now, problem number one. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved everything about this. It was a different colored garbage truck than the color of garbage truck that Braun Strowman was thrown into. However, when they did this scene and he pops out of the garbage truck underneath all the garbage, we're supposed to believe that he'd been stuck in a truck for 8 weeks under some garbage. But
no, all right. See,
it's pro wrestling, so
yeah. I want to think that's not the way they're going. I think Braun Strowman would just be crazy enough to mess with Miz that he stole a garbage truck and put himself back in it after his recovery.
Well, then how
to make a dramatic entrance?
So then he hired a driver to.
He hired a driver to back in.
Okay. So my theory, my theory is that he was in there and he got compacted and knocked out, and they had already scheduled to have the truck painted. So then they had it painted, and then for whatever reason they drove it all the way across the country to the next town that they were in Baltimore, from Minneapolis to Baltimore, and that's what happened. They just painted the truck. Maybe
it was WWE's garbage truck that they just have to take with them, because they're filthy animals. They just leave shit everywhere, so they have to have their own garbage truck. And after that garbage truck was used in a murder, much like in GTA, they painted it so the cops would not recognize it.
Oh yeah. No, that makes total sense. Yeah, I think we're onto something here. Absolutely. But so he comes out of the garbage and he does the Braun Strowman roar, and then they take off running, and he chases them in one of the great scenes ever. And then Michael Cole goes, "Oh my God, it's Braun Strowman!" And then next thing you know, they're in the ring, and Braun's just beating the fuck out of everybody. And the crowd is chanting at him, one more time. So he kept hitting him with power slams, and then they chanted for tables, and then he took them all the way up to the announce table and put them through one. And one of the great moments in Raw, I would say. I think like you and I have been saying for a while, Braun Strowman's a star. He is the star. He's the man. And I think this past week's Monday Night Raw solidified that.
Absolutely. And it's almost to the point where we've talked about having him maybe switch to SmackDown somehow before Mania and becoming the champion over there. Given what we know about Brock Lesnar and how he performs, I wouldn't be opposed to just doing a triple threat at Mania, having your three biggest stars, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and Braun Strowman. That way, if maybe you don't want to have Brock get pinned, or if you want to have some kind of mischief but not really it be a dirty match, it gives you a little bit more leeway with how you book that match. I see no reason. It would be a travesty if Braun Strowman is not in the title picture in the near future, because this guy, he's not just a star, but he is a WWE made star, and they haven't created many of those. They have something in Braun Strowman. I don't know why he's not in the title picture right now.
Well, it's because they are in love with Roman Reigns, and for whatever reason, they don't see him as the main guy. And I think they're missing the boat. I think they're going to figure it out soon. Everybody's going crazy for this guy. He's huge. And if you look, did you ever listen to him on Jericho's podcast?
No.
He was really good on that show. He was also good on Steve Austin's show. And he's a guy that people can talk to. He's just kind of a cool dude. And I really think that he'd be good on interviews and things like that. He's got to trim up the beard a little bit, maybe get a different haircut, to be more presentable as the face of the company. But I think he's the guy. You strap the rocket to him, man. And but that's why I'm saying move him over to SmackDown, because they're not going to give up on Roman. and they want to do Roman and Brock. And we just had at SummerSlam a Fatal 4-Way with Joe, Brock, Roman, and Strowman. So I don't really see them doing a 3-way at WrestleMania. It's just like, oh, it's the same match, but we don't have Samoa Joe, you know? So that's why I'm saying they need to move him over to SmackDown, and he can just be the face of that brand. And then Roman Reigns is the face of the Raw brand. Kind of like back in the day what we were talking about. John Cena was Raw, and Batista was SmackDown. I think that would be the best way to go.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. I mean, I'm fine with that because there's some great matches to be had on SmackDown with Braun Strowman, and he's a legitimate star. SmackDown needs more stars. But I don't know the best way to move him. I don't know the best storyline to move him and continue to make him look strong. Again, either way, I'm fine, but I think it would be ignorant at this point, given what Strowman has showed this year. And yeah, most of why the fans love him is just building off the fact that he did attempt to murder Roman Reigns. I mean, that's really where his star heated up.
Yeah.
And the fans have just fell in love with him ever since then. But the fact is, the fans love him. He gets a reaction, and he's a larger-than-life guy. He's the kind of guy that 5-10 years ago, Vince McMahon would have had the title on him within a month. I don't know why it's not the same now. He's better than a lot of the guys Vince has pushed. I mean, let's not forget, Great Khali was a champion pretty quickly. Braun Strowman is head over heels better than the Great Khali ever was. I don't get why they've got Roman Reigns, but you can have both. You can have two superstars. You just got to recognize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Braun Strowman, he is the Kurt Angle's first pick to be on Team Raw, captained by Kurt Angle. Team Raw is going to be Kurt Angle, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, and oh crap, I forgot I forgot the people. Do you remember?
I don't.
Ah, shit. No. Hold on. All right, and then on Team SmackDown, it's going to be Shane McMahon, Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles. So, I mean, that's gonna be a really big show. Survivor Series looks like it's gonna be a lot better than what I thought, because the initial match that they had announced was gonna be Brock Lesnar and Jinder Mahal, and I really don't care about that. But I do care about Angle versus McMahon, the Raw versus SmackDown 5-on-5.
Yeah, that should be fun, and it made me think Finn Balor, the other guy on Raw.
Oh yeah, Finn Balor, and I think there's one more, right?
Yeah, I think so, but the thing with having Balor in there,
Samoa
I think
Joe.
it would be a good... Samoa Joe.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I think with having Balor in there, a perfect opportunity for maybe Styles to be the one to pin Balor to knock him out, to set up that way they're kind of even, maybe set up something else in the future, whether it be Rumble or Mania, whatever have you, just kind of split them up, do a little bit of 50-50 booking, but setting up the triple threat not triple threat, but the third match, the rubber match in the future. So there's some good stories inside that match. I mean, you got Angle versus McMahon, which we've seen before. They're probably not going to put on the same kind of match, but dear God, was it brutal the first time. Yeah, and anytime you get Angle back in the ring, I think it's a big deal. I know we've already seen him return, but I think him returning in these tag matches is what's best for everybody. I really like it. Yeah, I mean, at this point in his career, he probably could still go for a singles match, but I think it's safer and you'll get more out of him in a tag match. And if against somebody bigger, he'll probably have a singles match at WrestleMania, but more likely against somebody who can carry most of the match. In tag matches like he's doing right now, it's absolutely perfect, because if he gets tired, if his body starts to break down, because he's still getting back into wrestling shape. He hasn't wrestled in a couple months, or 11 years, have you? Right. The tag matches are perfect for him. Yeah, absolutely. And so some big news happened on Sunday. It's a weird day to break big news like that, but we woke up in the morning and then all of a sudden Emma and Summer Rae and Darren Young were all released, one right after another. Now, Emma, that was kind of a shocker, because, and when you texted me, what was the first thing I said to you? Well, why the fuck didn't she get squashed by Asuka then? Right? That's the question everyone's asking. It makes no sense. So, which leads me to believe that they actually want to keep her, but she must have done something to warrant getting released like that. There's been some talk online that she has heat in the company with a lot of different people, but who knows if that's even true. If some people say, well, I don't like her, so that means she's got heat. It's hard to believe a lot of those things, but she must have done something wrong, though, between TLC
and this past Sunday. But, Darren Young and Summer Rae, I really can, who gives a shit, right? I think that's my who gives a shit of the week. I was going to save it till the end, but Darren Young and Summer Rae got released. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, and honestly, when those two names came out, I seen a lot of reaction where people were like, I forgot they were even with the company.
Right.
I mean, they haven't been on TV in so long. Summer Rae has been cleared for a long time. I mean, she did have I believe, a back or neck injury, but she's been cleared for a long time. They just haven't used her for anything, not even house shows. Darren Young, kind of in the same boat. Another injury, hadn't really been on TV since January. A lot of people just forgot about him. So it wasn't a real shock. But the Emma, she was really respected by her peers in the locker room. A lot of the women wrestlers point to her saying she was the one who started the women's revolution.
That's
in WWE.
bullshit.
I honestly, I wouldn't disagree with it, because looking in NXT, it was her matches with Paige that really kind of turned the tide for how women were booked.
Well,
because at that time,
what really turned the tide, and I was at this show, was in San Jose in front of 5,000 people. The main event was Sasha Banks. Well, co-main event, Sasha Banks and Charlotte, and Vince McMahon was there. And he got to see it. And then he's like, oh, wait a minute. Women can wrestle. That's what started it all. Emma was already up, and she didn't do shit. She was, Santino Marella's, kind of sidekick thing. She used to do the stupid thing where she'd come out and she'd poke bubbles.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, oh, she's so great. She pokes bubbles. The fuck? And then everybody's like, oh, I'm supposed to take
match, though.
I'm supposed to take her seriously? Give me a break.
Before that match you saw ever happen, though, they weren't signing women wrestlers. They were signing supermodels and trying to turn them into wrestlers. They were signing the Summer Raes and still looking for the Bella types.
Well, yeah, they had Natalya already, and they already had Charlotte under contract, who was a more athletic wrestler type version. So
they had Bret Hart's daughter and Ric Flair's daughter.
You make a good point, actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just wouldn't go crediting her for starting an entire revolution, because
it was the matches, I should say, with Paige that really changed the way they scouted women and changed the way they were booking women, because after having good matches down there, they started to look for something different. That's when they started to look for the Bayley types and the Sasha Banks types, who, don't get me wrong, them being, they are really beautiful, has something to do with them being signed as well, but they're also great wrestlers. So yeah, the influx came after that. Natalya and Charlotte tore the house down, but it was Emma way before, a year or two before, Emma and Paige really having those great matches in front of Triple H and in front of William Regal that changed the way of what they look for in women wrestlers.
Well, all I can say is I was never, ever intrigued by Emma. And then she came up and she's poking bubbles, right? It's like, oh, okay, she pokes bubbles, great. And then she goes back down after an injury. And this is how she turns heel. She puts on cop glasses and black lipstick, and all of a sudden she's a villain. Well,
yeah.
Like, I just never really cared about her. I didn't like her promos, whatever promos she had. And then her matches were never really that good. They were never really special, They were just matches. They were just there. Charlotte and Sasha Banks and all them, they all had really Bayley, amazing matches, right? Emma was never in that group.
Right.
She's
right. Bayley in NXT has had amazing matches.
Right.
Name me one amazing, and Bayley's one of the top women wrestlers in the world, but name me one good Bayley match on the main roster.
Well, the WrestleMania match.
You'd say that Bayley's match at WrestleMania was good?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I think, I got to watch Emma in NXT, and she never lived up to what she had on the main roster in NXT. And I've said it before, I think it's just the way they book women on the main roster. Only certain women will get to be successful. Charlotte will get to be successful. Alexa will get to be successful. Asuka hopefully will get to be successful. But really outside of that, the women haven't been able to live up to what they've done in NXT. And I think Emma, her injury history, I'm pretty sure she also got a little misdemeanor for shoplifting, which really got her a lot of heat.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, the misdemeanor for shoplifting, that was the only interesting thing Emma ever did. Really. That was the only time I was like, oh, wow, yeah, the Australian lady, she stole stuff. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. Now I care about what she's doing in life. But then they didn't even follow up on it.
They sent her back to to NXT for a little bit, and they threw some cop glasses on her. That was their follow-up to her shoplifting.
Right. Yeah, she was never interesting, and I love all the fake outrage. Oh my God, she's not a legend, okay? People throw that word around too much, calling her a legend, and she paved the way. She didn't pave anything. The road was already made long before. Emma's been around since 2012. Okay, that's not that long ago. Everybody calm the fuck down. Emma's going to be okay.
Yeah,
don't start hashtags give Emma a chance. Fuck, she's not worth it, trust me.
She'll be okay, but I mean, when they're saying pave the way, yeah, there were fantastic women wrestlers before her, but really look at the time between 2006 to 2012. I mean, there was Natalia, who was a really good technical wrestler, and then there was a bunch of models and bimbos and former porn stars. I mean, let's not forget, Candice Michelle held the women's title in WWE.
Well, look, I mean, let's be honest. Ronda Rousey did more for women's pro wrestling than Emma ever did. They started booking women more seriously because of Ronda Rousey. They took that lead. That's the only reason. Emma had nothing to do with it. I'm sorry. I hate to be mean. Well, okay, no, I don't. I love to be mean, but I just let's not get fake outrage over Emma getting fired. She got fired because she couldn't draw money. She's not that interesting.
I mean, I think part of why she got fired was because she just really didn't keep her mouth shut about creative, and she wasn't open to new ideas. A lot of the heat that we hear about really came from when they tried to give her the Emelina character because they wanted her to be a hot Australian.
Yeah, but
she didn't buy into it.
And it didn't really fit her. She's not that, This is she's just kind of an average lady, a decent wrestler, and she's got no promos.
Yeah, and here's the side I'm on, because I will side with her on most things, because I was a fan of her, but on the Emelina thing, they gave her a lot of vignettes. They put a lot of time into her. Yeah, maybe it doesn't fit you, but did the typical black church choir group fit the New Day? No, it didn't, and it was awful when it started. You got to make it work. When the company gives you all that time in the world, you take it and you run with it. I mean, did Kurt Angle want to go out there in a small cowboy hat with a ukulele singing Jimmy Crack Corn? Hell no. But he made it work. He turned it into something better. So, yeah, I can understand not liking the creative side of it, but you make it work. If she would have at least attempted to make it work, I feel like we probably don't talk today about her being released.
Right. Well, and after she got released, and then on Monday Night Raw, Asuka did what she should have done to Emma. She squashed some lady that I've never heard of. So I think they figured it out with Asuka. Now they're going to do things the right way. But, maybe that's part of the reason why. Maybe it was Emma's doing. Emma's arguing and whining that got her to have kind of a 50-50 match with Asuka. So, and then they ruined that whole thing. So, you know what? I hate to see people get fired, but everybody calm the fuck down. Don't be so mad.
In all honesty, right now, if you're going to get fired from WWE, it's probably the best time outside of when TNA was really big and WCW was big. Right now is probably one of the best times as a pro wrestler to not be in WWE because there is other money out there. There's Progress, there's Stardom, there's Women of Honor. I mean, there's other wrestling promotions where you can still make a living. Yeah.
Speaking of getting fired, one guy that's probably going to get fired sooner rather than later, Lio Rush. He made a douchey tweet just after it was announced that she was fired. This guy hasn't even stepped foot on the main roster. He's barely had a couple matches in NXT. He's 22 years old, and he tweets out making fun of Emma. It's I guess that's what happens when you're not truly ready for Asuka. And it's dude, she has done more in pro wrestling than you ever have. And I'm not. This is coming from a guy who just insulted her for the last 10 minutes. He doesn't really care about her career. Lio Rush can do some flips. He hadn't done much. He hadn't done anything. He hasn't drawn any money yet. And who is he to make fun of anybody for getting fired when he hasn't even been to the main roster yet?
Yeah, his whole apology of I'm sorry you got offended by it is that was just the worst apology ever. I'm sorry you didn't find my joke funny. It wasn't I'm sorry I'm an asshole. It's I'm sorry you didn't find my joke funny. I'm sorry we have a different sense of humor. And he was immediately called out by everybody. I mean,
Bray Wyatt,
Ricochet, Bray Wyatt,
Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens. I mean, everybody. I think the only person I didn't see call him out was maybe John Cena.
Yeah, and William Regal, who's the guy that recruited him, kind of had his back a little bit. But William Regal's a nice guy. He's going to do that. He'll have his back in public, but he probably, let him have it behind closed doors. I'm sure. Yeah, I just don't see him winning a match anytime soon because he already pulled that stupid bullshit at CZW where he got powerbombed off the ladder through a table and popped right back up. Totally no-sold it. And it's like, man, you don't do those things in wrestling. And now he does this. I obviously I've never been in the wrestling business, but you hear stories of how they used to take care of guys who acted like that. I think that there should still be some of that, right? They should have Bob Holly working NXT and then put him in a match with Lio Rush after this happens. Bob Holly's 60 years old. He can still beat the fuck out of Lio Rush, guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, could you imagine a comment like that being made by a guy who would have been in the locker room with The Undertaker? I mean, everybody hears about Wrestlers Court and like who was always in charge of that. WWE doesn't really, especially in NXT, doesn't really have a guy like that around anymore. Because Taker's not in the locker room every week, but could you imagine Lio Rush having to step into the locker room and facing Taker after something like that?
Oh yeah, that'd be insane. Who is like that? Samoa Joe. If he was still in NXT, Samoa Joe would let him have it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just NXT right now doesn't have a guy like that. I mean, there's been an influx of new talent, so there's not really a true locker room leader there anymore outside of William Regal, who's honestly, he's always on the road when he's not at NXT. He's doing scouting all over the place. So they really need to get a guy like that who can just kind of keep those young kids in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So look out for Lio Rush to an independent organization near you, hopefully. or we'll see him on NXT losing for a while. And maybe he can redeem himself. I don't know. He obviously has some growing up to do. But this Saturday, there's a big fight card, UFC 217, and the main event is going to be Michael Bisping versus George St. Pierre. George is coming off of a 4-year layoff, and he's also coming up in weight from 170 to 185, fighting Michael Bisping, who's a natural 205er, who cuts a lot of weight to make 185. So I think it's going to be a real interesting fight. Joe, what's the over-under? 500,000 for pay-per-view buys on this one.
I'm actually going to go with the over. I think George St. Pierre historically is a big draw. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in his return. He's been away for 4 years, and he's been one of the biggest stars in MMA history. So I'll go for the over here. And plus, people want to see Michael Bisping get his ass.
Joe, are you there?
I'm here, man. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Got cut off.
Yeah. All right. What were you saying?
Anyway, as I was saying, to have a good drawing pay-per-view, you really have to have a guy that not just you want to root for. You got to have a guy that you want to see him get his ass kicked. I mean, that's why Mayweather and McGregor drew so well. Is there was a lot of people who wanted to see both of those guys get their ass kicked, not necessarily see one guy win. Right. So I think that's where a lot of people will be cheering for GSP. I mean, he's got an entire country behind his back, but a lot of people will just want to see Bisping get his ass kicked, and I think that's going to put it over the top.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say, you know what, maybe I should set the over-under at 750,000 buys. Now what say you?
I'll go a little bit under that.
Okay,
I don't think they'll reach 750.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it'd be awesome if they did. I don't feel the energy surrounding this fight. I was excited for it when it was announced like a year ago. Not that excited for this fight. I am excited, however, for some of the matches on the undercard, specifically Cody Garbrandt versus TJ Dillashaw. Now, that is going to be a fucking fight. Those guys are going to go at it. I have not watched a single episode of The Ultimate Fighter at all. I don't care about that show anymore. However, I do like these two fighters. I like watching them fight. They've been in some brawls, and especially Cody Garbrandt. I really think this guy just comes to throw down, and he's got such quickness and accuracy. His head movement is off the chart. TJ Dillashaw is kind of a poor man's Dominic Cruz. Honestly, he basically stole his style and just tried to run with it. And he does a very good job with it. Very successful fighter. But I'm really liking this fight too.
Yeah, man. And Cody Garbrandt, actually the first time I seen him fight was against Dominic Cruz. And I was really pulling for Dominic in that fight. I would say from what I've seen of Garbrandt, he's like Demetrius Johnson if Demetrius Johnson fought real men.
Right.
He's just very quick. He's got great footwork. He's in and out. He's great hands, moves around a lot. He's going nonstop. His stamina is off the charts. So he's like Demetrius Johnson if, he were actually a real man and could fight at a, real weight class and not one that's made up. I'm going to go for Garbrandt here. I think he could potentially be the next big star in UFC. He's very brash. He's got a lot of charisma. I'd like to see him.
What else? What else about him?
What am I missing?
You know you're going to call him handsome. Be honest.
All right. He is a handsome guy, and that's important. That's important. Let's be. I mean, has there ever been a guy who drew very well who is just butt ass ugly? I mean, guys like you and me, we don't draw for a reason.
That's true. I mean, I drew my wife. That's all I need.
Yeah, true. But I mean, Garbrandt, I think he could be the next big thing. I mean, he's
Absolutely.
not gonna. It's hard to get to the McGregor level. I mean, that guy's special, but he could be up there. He could, kind of try to reach up and get close to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first fight, Bisping St. Pierre. I'm going to take Bisping in that one. Who you got in that one?
I'm going to go St. Pierre. I think St. Pierre's wrestling,
All right.
even though he has been off for a while, it's hard to get him down. I think he's just going to outpoint him.
All right. Embrace debate. I like it. And then Cody Garbrandt versus PJ or TJ Dillashaw. Super Callow and from bro Brian on Twitter always call him PJ Dillashaw, and it always trips me up. I'm taking Garbrandt in that one too. How about Joanna Young Jacek versus Rose Namajunas?
I missed the entire second part of what you just said.
How about Joanna Young Jacek versus Rose Namajunas?
I know nothing about those two women. I know is Jacek, is she the champion in the fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I'll probably pull for her just because she's champion.
Okay.
But again, outside of basically Rousey and Cyborg, I don't know, and Holly Holm, I really don't know much about the women fighters anymore. Nunes, I guess, but
yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to take Young Jacek in that fight, and then Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Jorge Masvidal.
I want to take Masvidal, but I don't know. Wonderboy. I don't know, man. I'm kind of split on that one. I'll probably pull for Wonderboy.
All right, so you got Wonderboy. All right, I'm taking Wonderboy too. So the only one that we differ on is Bisping and St. Pierre. I would read down the rest of the card, but I know you know nothing about any of the rest of the card. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll instead of doing predictions for the rest of the card, I'll just run it down. We got Johnny Hendricks versus Costa. I think Johnny Hendricks' biggest battle there is going to be his belly.
Yeah.
We got James Vick versus Duffy. I'm going to go with Duffy on that one. We got Harris and Godbeer. They were supposed to fight at the last UFC, but I think Godbeer got pulled up for the Verdum fight and got killed. I don't know how those guys fight. Vince St. Preux, OSP, takes on Corey Anderson. That actually should be a pretty cool fight. And I'm going to go OSP on that deal. And then we got Mickey Gall. Do you know who Mickey Gall is?
Mickey Gall is that god who beat the shit out of Phil Brooks.
Yeah, he sure as fuck did. And he is getting his fourth UFC fight here. He's fighting Braun. And I think that I'm going to go with Mickey Gall. I don't think they're going to put him in there with somebody he couldn't beat right now because they think he's going to be a star. And I agree with him.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot of charisma. Does he still come out to owe Mickey?
He sure does, yeah.
Good for him. Good for him. That's the dumbest thing in the world, but God, it fits him.
It makes sense. His name is Mickey. And in his last fight, so he's beat up two guys that everybody hates. He beat up CM Punk, beat him like a stepchild, just beat the shit out of him. Not that I advocate beating up children. There were some kids on Halloween night that should have gotten beat up by their parents.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I mean, CM Punk, if he were a child, would still deserve to be beaten.
Yeah, absolutely. And he also beat Sage Northcutt, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So UFC is 217 this Saturday. It's going to be a good show. If I'm in town, I'm probably going to buy it. So, it's a big card if I'm actually going to spend money on it. Although, I am a sucker. But the last MMA show that I bought was, I believe, it was Daniel Cormier. Nope, it was Chael Sonnen versus Wanderlei Silva. So it's been since June since I've actually paid for a card.
You know what? My mind was going a little bit farther back because I thought I was forgetting about Bellator there. The last one I bought was DC versus John Jones back in July.
Yeah, I had to. I think I was out of town that night. I had to XWT that one. So
yeah.
I may end up doing an XWT on this one. Although I am kind of excited for this GSP and Michael Bisping fight. Although you remember back when GSP was the top dog. We were always complaining about how boring he was. So
he was.
I don't know, but his last like the DS fight was good, and then his Johnny Hendricks fight was really good, which I thought he lost. But but Michael Bisping's fights are always pretty good. So I don't know, it might be good, and then it's kind of cool to see GSP come back. I mean, the guy is a legend.
here's kind of what I'm pulling for is when Dominic Cruz first entered the UFC, Uriah Faber's nickname for him was the Decisionator because he was so boring. He fought to not lose instead of fighting to win. He had a couple ACL surgeries, took a couple years off. I think it was 3 years between fights, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
when he came back,
I think it's 4 years.
For Dominic as well?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I got mixed up.
Yeah, no, I was talking about Dominic Cruz. He had the ACL surgeries and was a couple years between fights. And when he came back, he started knocking people out. Obviously, he didn't get to Garbrandt, but Garbrandt's an elite level fighter. So maybe the time away, allowed GSP to rest his body up. I mean, the guy's always been in fantastic shape. He does like gymnastics and swimming and stuff. Maybe the time away, he'll find his power again because he started becoming a boring fighter when he became champion. He stopped knocking people out then, stopped tapping people out then. So maybe the time away, he'll find that killer instinct again.
Yeah, maybe. I hope, especially if I'm going to be paying for it, I hope it's going to be a good card. So, so that's going to do it for our UFC 217 predictions. We got some quick hits for you. Did you get a chance to watch the UFC show over the weekend?
I did not. I caught highlights of the Machida debacle.
Oh yeah, he got murdered. So the only thing I took away from the fight this weekend is 3 things. Damian Maia and Lyoto Machida, who are legends in Brazil, they both lost to Americans, which did not go over so well in Brazil. Lyoto Machida got knocked the fuck out by Derek Brunson. And I think my new favorite fighter is Colby Covington. So after his fight with Damian Maia, he got on the mic and he called all of the Brazilians, filthy animals, and basically told them they can F off. and the Brazilians did not take too kindly to that. And the UFC was pretty upset at him. Apparently, they said that it's under review. So he did the gentlemanly thing, and he came out on Twitter the next day and wrote a statement. It was a very, very heartfelt statement. Very, he seems like a sweet guy. And in the statement, he said, while I was in Brazil, I had 10,000 people chanting at me that you're going to die. They were spitting at me, throwing water bottles at me. They were cussing at me, and I said what I said. So right now, I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to any filthy animals that I may have offended by comparing them to Brazilians. I was like, that is so awesome. So because of that, one of the coaches over at ATT, Ricardo Laborio, he's their jiu-jitsu coach. I guess he left ATT because of that. And Ben Saunders, who we've had some correspondence with over Twitter, I'm trying to butter him up to get him on the show one day, and he also left. But then it came out today that Ricardo Laborio actually left 2 weeks before the incident happened. He just took this opportunity to make a name for himself by saying, oh, the reason I left is because this happened. But no, it turns out he'd been gone a couple weeks already, so he's full of shit. And so I really think that Colby Covington's my new favorite fighter. And he's also been on Impact Wrestling lately. So that's pretty cool. He might even be at Bound for Glory this coming up Sunday.
Yeah, well, I mean, good for him. And, just taking a pay. I know other fighters have done it before. There have been just dating back to the probably 1930s. But in MMA, just taking a page out of the Chael Sonnen playbook and insulting an entire country. Because now you're going to have a whole country wanting to see you get your ass kicked, and that is good for business. Absolutely.
I mean, Chael Sonnen was the master at that, where he didn't really say anything overtly racist, but he called him stupid, and, one of the funniest things I've ever heard Chael Sonnen say, and Colby Covington, make no mistake about it, is using the Chael Sonnen playbook. And, which, I didn't know this, but he's from Clovis, California, which is, 45 minutes away from Exeter, where we were all born. So that's pretty cool. But he's using the Chael Sonnen playbook, and Chael Sonnen one time said, I gotta apologize. When I said all those mean things about Brazil, I didn't really do it in public. I said those things on the internet. And if I had the foggiest idea that they had the internet in Brazil, I wouldn't have said those things. I was like, oh my God, that was probably the funniest damn thing I've ever heard. Colby Covington, he's awesome. He's our new favorite fighter, the official favorite fighter of the Podcast Express. And I got one more note about the UFC. Raquel Pennington, a female fighter, she was actually in line to fight Amanda Nunes for the bantamweight title. And she decided in Vegas this past weekend to go on an ATV excursion and go hunting and then ride ATVs out in the middle of nowhere. And she flipped her ATV, broke her leg. Boom, fight's off.
Damn. Well, I mean, good job. When you're in line for a title shot, you got to take care of yourself, and that's probably just not the smartest choice to make.
Yeah, she probably lost out on about $150,000 right there just because she wanted to go ATVing. So yeah, you got to be careful, man, especially when you're an elite fighter. And Raquel Pennington is really good, so I was actually looking forward to that fight. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
All right, I got some quick Impact notes here. We haven't actually had anything to talk about when it comes to Impact in a while, but I'm just going to go ahead and run down the card for Bound for Glory, and then I got some quick notes here. So this Sunday, Bound for Glory, it's TNA Impact, or not TNA, Impact Wrestling's biggest show of the year, no longer called Global Force. However, for the Global Championship for Impact Wrestling, the Impact Global Championship, you got Eli Drake versus Johnny Impact, who's also known as John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Blaze, John Hennigan, and a million other names. Now he's Johnny Impact, so there you go. For the Impact Knockouts Championship, it's about time TNA just calls them women too.
Yeah.
I mean, Knockouts, come on, grow up. But anyway,
it's better than Divas, I guess.
Yeah, it's still stupid. Impact Knockouts Championship is Sienna versus Allie versus Gail Kim. Then you got the Tag Team Championships. You got OVE versus LAX in a 51-50 street fight. So, by 51-50, are they implying that they're all going to say they're going to commit suicide and have to go to a rubber room?
Well, isn't the 51-50, isn't that just, crazy, not necessarily suicidal?
It's for both, but they only lock you up if you're suicidal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But in that match, expect Sami Callihan to show up. So, for all those Sami Callihan fans, I'm sure there's one out there. He's going to be teaming up with OVE, I guess. Or he's going to show up in that match somehow. For the X Division Championship, you got Trevor Lee versus Desmond Xavier versus Matt Sydal versus Petey Williams. Petey Williams is a big deal back in the day. He was part of Team Canada. He's the one that has that the Canadian Destroyer, what's kind of that flip pile driver thing that he does. He's back. Sanjay Dutt and Garza Jr., so that should actually be an insane match there. You got the Six Sides of Steel tag team match. You got Moose and Stephen Bonner, which I'm really intrigued by seeing Stephen Bonner in pro wrestling. I don't know. Taking on Bobby Lashley and King Mo, so you got a lot of UFC and Bellator guys on this one. Got the Monsters Ball match, Abyss versus Grado. A Red Wedding match. You got Rosemary versus Taya Valkyrie. I don't know what a Red Wedding match is.
Does that mean it's their time of the month?
I'm just gonna not even respond to that. All right.
I'm assuming it's there's gonna have some sort of Game of Thrones plight there, because that's where the Red Wedding comes from. It's a Game of Thrones reference. So surely it'll have something to do with that, or maybe they just thought it was a cool name.
Maybe, I don't know. I've never seen Game of Thrones, so I have no idea. Team Impact versus Team AAA. You got EC3, Eddie Edwards, and James Storm versus El Hijo de Fantasma, Pagano, and El Tejano from AAA. So, yeah, there you go. Bound for Glory, Joe, are you going to watch it?
I am not, man. I have no interest in Impact Wrestling at all. I mean, I was a big Bobby Lashley fan when he was in WWE, intrigued by Stephen Bonner, but I don't know. I can't find myself to want to take the time to watch Impact Wrestling, and they must not be drug testing if they're going to have Matt Sydal there.
Well, clearly, at least not pot testing anyway.
Yeah. I mean, clearly.
Yeah. I will most likely watch it, and XWT will be my friend on that deal. And I'm really interested in seeing Stephen Bonner in a match. So, Stephen Bonner was one of my early favorite UFC fighters, so to see him in pro wrestling I think is a big deal. So I will be watching that. I don't really care about the main event, Eli Drake and John Morrison, Johnny Impact. Other than that, the X Division match will probably be pretty crazy. That they typically do that. So, and then LAX I think is a good tag team. So we'll see. I will have a full report on it next week, hopefully, if I get the time to watch it. All right, some other notes. Don Callis, who is the color guy for New Japan Pro Wrestling, he was also in the WWE back in the day called the Jackal. And then he spent some time in ECW. He was known as Cyrus the Virus, and he did the color commentary on there. Well, looks like he might be heading to Impact. He's not going to be there for this coming up pay-per-view or the next set of tapings, but I think after that, it looks like it might be a done deal, maybe after the first of the year. So Impact gets a coup on New Japan Pro Wrestling. Speaking of which, Scott D'Amore, who is the, I think the vice president of operations, he's kind of like he took over for Jeff Jarrett, who was in rehab and got fired and all that stuff. So Scott D'Amore, who is a Canadian guy, who trained a lot of pro wrestlers, stuff like that. He's been with TNA for a long time. Anyway, he was in Japan and went to the New Japan Pro Wrestling locker room and basically begged them to work with them again, which in a kind of a pathetic move. See, there for a long time, New Japan and TNA actually had a relationship where they would share talent. In fact, the only New Japan Pro Wrestling show I went to back in 2005 had a lot of Impact talent on it. So it was the first time I'd ever seen any Impact guys live. And I think AJ Styles was there, and it was a Tokyo Dome show, kind of like in the middle of the year. It wasn't the January 4th one. It was the night that Brock Lesnar actually won the IWGP title. So, little trivia for everybody. I've been to a New Japan show. And I saw Brock Lesnar. You know what? Now that I think about it, I've seen Brock Lesnar in WWE. And I was there when he beat The Undertaker back in, I want to say, 2002 for the WWE title in Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
You and I saw him at WWE when he beat up Mr. Perfect. You remember that?
Was that Brock Lesnar?
That was Brock Lesnar. It was at the it was in Springfield at the John Hammond Center. Yeah.
I did not realize, because I was pretty young there. That was my first WWE show. I didn't realize that was Brock Lesnar. I remember Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, it was Perfect and Brock Lesnar, and then Randy Orton wrestled Christian on that show.
What? Damn, man.
Yeah, it was long.
It was
before they were even on TV. So
yeah, I remember very little of that show. I remember Taker and JBL, or he was Bradshaw at the time, because that was Biker Taker.
Yeah.
And I remember Mr. Perfect, and that was about it. Oh, well, Scotty Too Hottie, because he was jumping on the ropes the whole time.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun show. But so I've seen him in WWE, and I was actually there the night that he won the UFC championship against Randy Couture in Vegas. I was there for that. I was also there when he won the New Japan title. So I have seen Brock Lesnar in 3 different incarnations. Just not to rub it in everybody's faces. I'm just saying that's a fact. Anyway, Scott D'Amore was there begging New Japan Pro Wrestling to start a relationship with Impact. And then he actually went up to Okada personally and begged his forgiveness for the way Impact had actually booked Okada when Okada was there. Now, Joe, did you see any of that when Okada was in Impact?
I didn't. I went back and looked at some of the stuff, but most of what I know was just from what I've read. And from what I've read, they used him god-awfully.
They legitimately had one of the best pro wrestlers in the entire world. They had him in their company. They could have done whatever they wanted with him. And they decided to make him Samoa Joe's sidekick, dress him up as Kato from the Green Hornet, and then just put him in a bunch of skits, and then not really let him do anything in the ring.
Could you imagine having a roster of Samoa Joe? At that time, they would have had Kurt Angle, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, yeah. AJ Styles. Yep. Tanahashi.
Yep. And they still couldn't. I think, would they have a Spike TV contract at that point too?
They did, absolutely.
And they still found a way to fail as a wrestling company. Yeah. Just imagine having legitimately the best wrestlers in the world and to still fail as a wrestling company.
It's totally pathetic. But, yeah. And basically, New Japan said, fuck off. They're still working with Ring of Honor. But at least they tried, I guess. And speaking of telling Impact to fuck off, Ricochet did just that. They offered Ricochet a contract, and he said, no, thank you.
To be fair, they would have been dumb to not at least try. To have a talent like that available, if they wouldn't have at least tried, it would have been even dumber than getting turned down by him. When CM Punk got released from WWE, they still tried because it's the smart business thing to do if you can get them. But good for Ricochet for making the right choice and saying, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah. All right. So I got some WWE quick hits here. Stephanie McMahon might be running for Congress. Joe, you going to vote for her?
No, I'll probably vote for anybody who runs against her, even if it's one of the Hitler descendants.
Oh, well, you're not even in her district, so I don't think you have a you have a choice.
I mean, I'll fly there and register. I'll get a secondary residence.
Oh, there you go. The Rock keeps hinting at running for president of the United States. I guess anybody could do it, so why not, right?
Yeah, well, and for him, it's probably dumb to not keep hinting at it because it keeps his name in the news.
Yeah.
And in the entertainment world, that's important. So even if he has no plans at all to run, why not keep people interested in the idea?
Yeah, as long as he's not like, butt fucking 14-year-old boys like Kevin Spacey, I think he'll be all right as long as he stays out of the news for those things.
Yeah.
The Miz destroyed Baron Corbin in an epic Twitter rant. Or in an epic Twitter video. Just fantastic. Actually, hold on just a second. I am actually going to play this.
Baron Corbin, I just got your message. I've been really busy this week, but I gotta say, it's the best promo I've ever seen you cut. It's amazing because when I cut my best promos, it's in front of thousands in attendance and millions watching at home on a big camera in a WWE ring, while your best promo is on an iPhone on social media. So listen up, Twitter tough guy. This isn't about Raw and SmackDown supremacy for me. This is about making the Intercontinental Championship the most prestigious and honorable title in all the WWE. I bust my ass day in and day out to make that title relevant, while the United States Championship is working overtime to make its holder relevant. See, I've heard all about you in the WWE ring, how talented you are, but to me, you're just another generic big man who will be gone in 2 years while I'm carrying this show for the next 10. And if you ever talk about my pregnant wife again, I'll knock your teeth down your throat.
And wow, I mean, talk about a brutal promo. I mean, he just really laid into that guy.
Yeah, when Miz is on, there's not many, maybe nobody better than him when it comes to a promo. And dear God, I remember watching that and sending it to you and just saying, holy shit, like Baron Corbin just got slayed.
Yeah, and I watched Baron Corbin's rebuttal, and it wasn't very good. He has proven to not be very clever on Twitter, which is why me and him got into it. And not only that, he's sitting in the locker room. He's indoors, right? He's wearing a tank top, and he's also got a beanie on. What is the purpose of the beanie?
To cover up his head.
Well, when you're wearing a beanie, it's because it's cold outside. You don't wear beanies for fashion, right?
I mean, Baron Corbin wears beanies because he is bald.
I wear hats because I'm bald. You can wear a hat when it's warm or cold. You wear beanies when it's cold.
I have no other logical explanation. The only reason is because maybe it's easier for him to work out. Maybe the beanie catches the sweat from rolling into his eyes from the top of his head. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, well, anyway, Miz destroyed him on that, so I'm glad everybody got a chance to hear that. Roman Reigns still has the mumps. Maybe he's going to be over at a kid's house, and do they do like mumps parties like they do for chickenpox?
I don't think so.
Because the mumps can kill you, right?
I think it can, but I'm pretty sure the mumps has pretty much been eradicated. Like, it's a pretty uncommon thing because there's this wonderful thing out there called vaccines that pretty much have got that out of, medical worry.
Right. So, and you're basically what you're saying right now is you're a total fucking idiot if you don't believe that vaccines are good and that you shouldn't vaccinate your children. That's basically what we're saying.
100%.
On the record. Right. Okay, just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Listen to doctors and not former Playboy cover girls. Right.
Listen to doctors, not politicians, about whether or not to vaccinate your children. So there you go.
Yeah.
Goddamn conspiracy theorists. And I'm one of them. But I that's just one that I'm just like, no, I'd rather not get the measles. I'm going to get my MMR shot. No big deal.
Yeah, no, like not having polio is a really cool thing.
Absolutely. But anyway, Roman Reigns is still sick, so he's not on the European tour. So Triple H joined the Shield, I guess, for just for Europe. And there's like videos going around of him in Shield, like he dressed up as Roman Reigns, I guess, and doing that thing.
I mean, it would have been so much better if they had put a wig on him and just like tried to play him off as Roman Reigns to see if anybody would have noticed. Because let's not forget, like Triple H is the reason the Shield split up in the first place. I mean, I get it's a house show, but come on, like, let's keep some sort of continuity going.
Yeah. It's kind of like when Sting and Triple H fought at WrestleMania a couple years ago, and DX, rightfully so, came out to help Triple H, but then for some reason the NWO, Sting's arch nemesis, comes out to help him. That didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But I still like it.
I don't know.
Yeah. Bray Wyatt is back, but they're not putting him on the show for a while. I think that's a good thing. He needs to, freshen up a little bit.
Yeah, he needs to reset, and honestly, not that he's not a huge ratings draw anyway. I'd be fine if they kept him out until Rumble. Maybe have him be a surprise entrant in the Rumble or something.
Yeah, maybe. Rockstar Spud of Impact fame and Hideo Itami, it looks like they could be coming to 205 Live soon. So you have all these cuts going on, but WWE might be bringing in some fresher talent to replenish their 205 Live roster. So that could be interesting. Rockstar Spud's actually a good little wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a huge Itami fan. I think he's one of the better technical wrestlers that the company has. So bringing something fresh to 205 Live, it might be good for him. Although I'd like to see him do something a little bit bigger, but who knows? Maybe him and Rockstar Spud could revitalize that division. They've had more interest than ever right now with Enzo Amore there, so who knows? Yeah.
Raw is going to have its 25th anniversary on January 22nd, and they're going to do a kind of a dual show. They're going to be at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, and they're also going to be at the Manhattan Center, which is the old venue that Raw used to run on a weekly basis. It's a kind of a real small venue that ECW played a lot, and whenever WWE did the ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view, they did it there. It's a real crazy crowd. So, and Ring of Honor plays there a lot too. So I think that's going to be really cool, really fun, really interesting. And, Joe, prepare your boner, sir. Undertaker coming back at that show. So that ought to excite you.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I hope there's nothing to set up another Undertaker match.
No.
I think the way he went out at Mania last year was perfect.
Well, the official prediction on my side over here. If you get mad at this, just get at me, bro. At Get Up Mike. I think this is the show that they announced that Undertaker's going into the Hall of Fame. It's right around Royal Rumble time, which is usually when they start doing the official announcements for the Hall of Fame. I think it'll be that night in the Manhattan Center. They announced that Undertaker's going to the Hall of Fame.
I'd be perfectly okay with that. And in all honesty, something I would like to see happen, maybe they do the announcement there, but I would like to see Finn Balor and the Club attack Undertaker. And maybe, if you're trying to get people behind Roman Reigns, maybe have the Shield come out for a save and set up the Club versus the Shield as kind of a holdover until Mania, and have Balor and the Club just fully turn heel.
That'd be cool.
And if the Shield if Roman Reigns comes out to save Undertaker, the crowd reaction would be really hot. I think it'd be a perfect way to do it. Not saying that's kind of what's in their mind. It's just something I thought of. But I am looking forward to the 25th anniversary. Usually the anniversary shows or the special episodes of Monday Night Raw, they go all out for it, and I haven't been disappointed in them yet. I mean, the 1000th episode of Raw was really awesome. They did Old School Raw a couple of years ago when they brought back Jake the Snake. They're usually all pretty entertaining, so I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen here. Yeah,
absolutely. Like you said, Undertaker, they got Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, and I'm sure a bunch more wrestlers are going to be added to that show. So I mean, it's going to be real fun.
Yeah, we're 2 months out, and that's just the names that's been announced so far.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke about this last week, but Vice picked up on it and wrote an article about WWE using the Warrior for its anti-cancer promotion for that fake Susan G. Komen thing. Did you get a chance to read that?
I haven't.
I'll send it to you. Basically what they're saying is that Ultimate Warrior in real life was an asshole. Yep. He said a lot of mean things about gay people. And when Bobby the Brain Heenan got cancer, Ultimate Warrior did a video and said he deserves his cancer, and I hope he lives a horrible, long death, and I hope he dies from cancer. Well, he ended up dying from cancer, and WWE decided, well, you know what? Since that guy said this, or even though that guy said this, he has a cool logo and he drew us a lot of money, so we'll go ahead and use his picture and his likeness for the Cancer Research Fund for breast cancer awareness. So. The media's finally picking up on that. I don't think they do that again next year. Hopefully not.
Yeah, it makes no sense to pretty much anybody who has paid attention to the people outside or wrestling people outside of wrestling. I mean, if you know anything about the guy, it makes absolutely no sense. So hopefully they learn from their mistake.
Absolutely. Speaking of mistakes, Nikki Bella has been eliminated from Dancing with the Stars. Who gives a shit?
Damn it. You know, I was really hoping she'd go all the way because her getting eliminated means she's probably going to be coming back to WWE TV sooner.
Well, I'm glad she's eliminated because that means that I don't have to fucking hear about Dancing with the Stars on my timeline.
You probably still will. You'll still hear about it.
Oh, well, I hope not.
Just, you got to get that mute button going, like mute hashtags.
Yeah. Oh, we got a special guest on the line, and he's actually going to introduce our next segment. We got Mr. Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey, what's the next segment going to be called?
Now, the rest of the story.
Oh, thank you, Paul. That was very generous of you to spend time with us. Paul Harvey's been dead for like 10 years, but it was really nice of him to make an appearance on the Podcast Express. We're just a little guy, and he's a legendary broadcaster.
Yeah, but no, those radio guys got to stick together, so I appreciate him taking the time out of his day in the afterlife to come do that for us.
Yeah, I hope my wife doesn't get all freaked out that I had to do a seance in her office to get that guy to do that, to introduce the rest of the story.
Yeah.
The Bullet Club, they dressed as Aladdin characters. And this was embarrassing because one of my coworkers tagged me in the video because it's been going around online. If it's really stupid and ridiculous in wrestling, that's what usually gets the most plays. And that's when non-wrestling fans find out about it. And to make fun of me for watching wrestling, they showed me this video. And I hadn't seen it yet. I had just gotten to work. So Kenny Omega was dressed up like Jasmine. Marty Scurll was dressed up like Aladdin, and somebody was in a genie outfit. Anyway, they did the match with Will Ospreay and a couple other guys, and then at the end of the match, Marty Scurll and Omega kissed on the mouth. So that Kenny Omega, best wrestler in the world, did that.
Yep, that is a thing that happened. I don't know. That I think the worst part about it was seeing Kenny Omega in the Jasmine outfit, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I ain't got nothing against, you want to kiss a dude on your own time, that's fine. I don't care if it's even on TV. However, in pro wrestling, you're supposed to be doing a fight, and I would have rather seen that than seen what I saw. So, there you go. Speaking of guys kissing, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, or Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake, and Hulk Hogan have a Twitter feud going. Man, they just can't seem to get along. And I got in on this feud, and I offered to have Brutus on the show. He has not taken me up on the offer, but he did retweet me whenever I made the offer. So we'll see. Got to butter that guy up a little bit. And but I don't know what they're feuding over. I know that Hogan was hanging out with his ex-wife, and they've been saying bad things about each other. And Brutus the Barber Beefcake said he's going to have a tell-all book about Hogan. Hogan said to get a lawyer. And Brutus Beefcake said, you better get your bandana tight. And then Hogan said, my bandana's glued on. So they're not very good at insults. I come to find out. 60-year-old men insulting each other on Twitter doesn't really go very well. But yeah, I thought it was very interesting to see Brutus the Beefcake and Hulk Hogan long after their careers have been over having a Twitter feud. But if he does a tell-all book, I'm interested.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, even if it's not 100% true, you're going to get some good stories out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And last week, the JFK files got released, right? And they didn't release all of them, but the ones they did release did have some interesting information. And there was one document about a guy here in San Francisco who said that he paid Lee Harvey Oswald $1,000 to kill Kennedy, right? But he said he met him at the Cow Palace in San Francisco during one of Roy Shire's pro wrestling events. And he said the main event was Leo Namalini versus Ray Stevens. He met Lee Harvey Oswald there and gave him $1,000 to kill Kennedy. Well, the FBI, after Kennedy got killed, they got this information, they gathered it all, they investigated. Now, in there, they listed someone, they took his name out, but they kept calling him informant. So people are starting to believe that maybe Roy Shire, who promoted wrestling here in Northern California forever, was an FBI informant. But I don't have that, that's just a rumor. So, and I like rumors, and I'll keep going with that. But anyway, it turns out it was all bullshit because the dates the guy gave him turned out there was no wrestling on those days. So, but I thought it was kind of interesting that the Northern California wrestling scene could have killed Kennedy.
Yeah. I mean, and apparently, hypothetically, $1,000 to kill a president. I mean, the guy who is, paying that, not half bad. I mean, that's a pretty good business deal.
Yeah.
It's only $1,000.
Yeah, but if you're the one accepting it, I would have obviously gotten a lot more for that. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the FBI paid a lot more to actually have Kennedy killed. But this guy's story, $1,000, it's pretty good deal there.
Yeah, so I already talked about my Who Gives a Shit. Summer Rae and Darren Young getting fired, and Emma, too. What's your Who Gives a Shit of the week?
My Who Gives a Shit of the week is Bountiful Glory is this Sunday. I wanted to drop it when you were talking about it, but I held on to it for the end of the show. I didn't even know people still watched Impact. I don't know is this on pay-per-view? Is it on TV? I know they've done a bunch of their...
It's pay-per-view, yeah.
Well, is the over-under like 10,000 buys on it? Like, let's be real. Like,
that would be a realistic over-under, yeah.
Yeah, Impact is a dying breed, and I hate it for the talents that are there because they do have some good wrestlers. But, man, it's just time to go away at this point. They're not a company that's making a profit. They're holding people back. Just move on.
Yeah. Hey, so I was going to have you talk about Stranger Things, but I just realized you're not finished with Season 2 yet. So just tell me what you think about the show so far, and then when you finish it next week, we'll do a full review of both seasons. How about that?
Yeah, no, I've been watching it. I'm 5 episodes in. I absolutely love it, man. It's a nice mix of, it's kind of creepy, kind of whimsical. I like the 80s vibe to it, the 80s music, kind of the graphics. Winona Ryder is absolutely fantastic. I never thought I would say that.
Hey, hold on. How do you spell whimsical? I'm writing down that you use that word. Hold on.
Is it WIMSICAL?
Sounds about right.
I don't know.
Anyway, let the record state that you use the word whimsical. Okay, continue.
I use the word, yeah. I never thought I would say a Winona Ryder performance was fantastic, but she kills it in the show, man. She's awesome. The kids are all great. They play their roles well. The sheriff or the chief in it, the guy is just a total badass. I really enjoying it. It's a nice mix. I didn't think I would like it. I've kind of held off for about a year now for watching it, but my roommate's been getting into it. You've sent me the Braun Strowman thing for Strowman Things that I decided I had a bunch of free time today, so I went ahead and started it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad I could help change your life for the better, man. It's a great show. And that's going to do it for this week, everybody. Go ahead and check us out on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, all that stuff. And follow us on Twitter at ThePodExpress. And Joe, you are?
At Joe Gilbert 1992.
And I'm at GetUpMike. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you again next week. Bye.